In this 2.5 hour course today, we are going to make a melodic techno track from start to finish, just like this. This one was requested by Kyle, Brett, and a few other of my producer Launchpad students. So this is for them, but it's also for you. And you can, as always, grab the entire project for free down in the description, dissect it, make it your own, and go from there. With that, let's hop straight in. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is just get our project set up with a few default settings that are gonna make our life easier going forward. First thing we're gonna do here is go up to our BPM here and type in 125, set it to 125. That's a pretty standard tempo for melodic techno. It tends to be between 122 to 130, I find. Next thing I'm going to do up here, one of my favorite Ableton 12 features is the new global key. I'm going to set my key up here to G minor. A lot of melodic techno tracks tend to be written in G minor, F sharp minor, because the bass response in that key just is really solid, because a lot of stuff uses that root note. It's a really good note that is reproduced well on subwoofer systems. And then the third thing I'm going to do here is just bring in a reference track. Now I'm going to be using Eternity by Anyma and I believe Chris Avantgarde. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong there. Really solid, well-known melodic techno track. What we're going to do here is I'm going to use this as a structure reference. Now I talk about this with my producer Launchpad students all the time. Shout out to them. If you want to go sign up and work with me one-on-one, in the comments, I'll leave a link. So I talk about with this all the time, right? And what I recommend doing is when you reference, you want to have one of three things going on. You want to reference for the mixdown quality, so the sounds and how they're mixed. You want to reference for the structure, so the structure of each section in the track, or you want to reference for the types of sounds actually used in the track, whether that's instruments like basses, leads, drums. So those are the three kind of ways you can use a reference track. I'm going to use it for structure in this case. I'm going to turn it on complex here. I'm just going to pitch it down a couple semitones for copyright purposes. We're just going to go through and listen to this on solo and just kind of get a vague idea for our track's structure. As we can see here, it's aligned to our BPM. This track also did happen to be at 125 as well, which is pretty cool. Let's have a listen, right? I'll go to +1, just it's a bit easier. Cool. So everything tends to happen in 8-bar sections with melodic techno. I'm just going to change my snapping here to 0. I'm going to create some dummy MIDI clips in this blank MIDI channel below here. I'm just going to select, this, press Shift Command M. We're just going to use a few different colors and naming conventions to sort of denote different sections. We've got intro development, so I'm just going to put intro dev there because there's a few extra elements that come in here. Right, and then we have another intro section, I'm assuming here. All right, so we've got intro hats come in here, which is awesome. We've got intro snare, nice little variation there. And then we've got intro lead, right? That kind of continues for 2 lots of 8 bars. And then we head into our breakdown, right? I'm going to use a different color here for breakdown. I'm going to use like sort of a orangey sort of color. Now, what I am going to do for this intro lead section is, because it kind of has a drop-like energy to it, I'm going to use like a sort of, let's go red for the drop sort of sections. I'm actually going to go blue for the breakdown, I think, and then I'll have a breakdown section here. There's a vocal that comes in here. And then we've got a breakdown, breakdown lead. So we'll put that in there. Super important to get this stuff organized early on. So breakdown lead. This is a build because now the stuff's really starting to come in. So I'm going to color this orange. And then we have this build and what looks like a little pre-drop vocal section.
A reflection of eternity. A bond.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do here is I noticed there's a kind of an odd timing. It's like a 5-bar section. So what I'm going to do in mine is actually just have a second build section. I'm going to cut all this out and put the drop at a more even interval. And so we're going to have the drop here. I'm going to call this drop 1A. Nice. And then I'm going to call this section before build / gap because I might use that silence gap idea. I'm just going to have it kind of going through there. Could be cool. Play around with that in a second. And then we got a few developments of the drop. So we've probably got drop 1A going here as well. I'm going to call this 1B because there's a few changes there. I'm going to call this 1C and call it hum bass note change. So there's a bit of a harmonic change in the low end, which is a cool thing that we could use in our track. Listen to this section. We've got a micro build here.
A bond forever and beyond.
And I'm going to call this basically drop 2A because it's long enough that it's kind of a second, almost breakdown build sort of vibe. Cool. Let's go drop 2B here. Now energy starts to chill out here. So we're going to go back to our white color for the outro. Or should I say gray? Yeah, we'll do gray. Outro. Yeah. That's pretty much it. It's just kick and bass and some hats. And that's pretty much our structure, right? So now what we can do, now that we've got this from the original track, is we can go ahead and delete the reference track. You can keep it in if you want to reference for one of those other reasons I mentioned. But apart from that, we've now got our own structure separate from the reference track that we can use creatively in our own way. And now we can head to getting that first element in, which is the kick drum. So let's do that. So we're going to zoom in here to drop 1A. We're going to create a new audio track in Ableton. And we're going to call this one kick. Now I've been liking to use sort of this orangey color for my drums. So I'm going to use that. Now I'm going to use drop 1A because generally this is the part of the track where you're going to be kind of making first, right? We all start with the drop more or less. Nothing wrong with starting with the breakdown or some other section. It's just going to be the easiest to move forward with the arrangement. So in terms of sample, now you could very well just find a great melodic techno kick from a melodic techno pack like this. I really like the sound of this one. It's got a good low end, but for the sake of the tutorial and for the sake of Splice not getting angry at me for distributing their samples unlawfully, I'm going to make my own by combining two kicks together. So we're going to create a second channel here just temporarily called kick 2. Now what I'm going to do here, and I may not even use a second channel actually, is I'm just going to find a second kick in my little selected samples here. I'm looking for something with a bit more of a solid click to it. So maybe this one. Okay, this one's got like a nice click. Let's just kind of, whoa, didn't mean to do that. Let's just kind of listen to these side by side. I'm going to make it so that they start at exactly the same point for the sake of not having any phase issues. So let's do that on this one too. Again, this is just a cool way as well to get your own sound in your own samples. So let's do that. I'm gonna probably put this sort of there. I think that's a good alignment. And let's just listen to these side by side. All right, so that's the first kick. Ooh, I'm not sure which one I like more. Ooh. You know what? I might actually just take the top end from this kick here. Actually, it was the opposite of what I was thinking. So I'm just going to really shorten the sample just so it's this click, right? Just that part of the sample. Maybe a bit longer. All right, and we're going to fade it out. So we're just getting that first part of the sound. I'm going to group these together. I'm going to put a kick limiter on there. So I'm just going to use my classic favorite limiter plugin, which is Pro L2, because it just controls things so nicely. Just leave it on 0 dB. And let's listen to these two together now. All right, there we go. I'm going to shorten this sample a little bit just because I like it a bit shorter. Or actually, you know what I might even do is just pitch this up a semitone. Yeah, that's good. So a few changes: extra click layer, shorter sample, pitched up. This is our own kick sample now, right? Let's just have a look at the limiter here, make sure it's not doing too much. Yep, so it's just controlling that extra click layer, right? Without it. Right, it's quite nice. I may again leave a little bit more of the original sample in there just for the sake of it sounding nicer. Yeah, it just gives it that extra little bit of something, you know. So I'm going to go ahead here, create a new channel. We're going to call this kick. I'm going to color it the original orange we had. Before I bounce it, I'm just going to chuck on Smexoscope here to make sure the waveform is looking healthy and there's no phase issues. Okay, cool. What I am going to do is just chuck it into the limiter a little harder on the 1-to-1 unity gain setting. Actually, no, I won't even use that. I'll just drive it up. There we go. I think that's a healthy waveform. All right, let's put this to resampling. I'm going to make sure my mastering limiter is off for now, which it is. We're just going to record that. Boom. Now I've got our own kick sample. Let's have a look at this one. Looks healthy. Nothing too crazy going on there. And yeah, let's use that. All right, so I'm going to turn off Smexoscope here. Now we're going to put this on our classic 4 on the floor movement. So boom, every quarter note. That's our kick drum, right? And we're going to loop it up for just this first 8-bar section, right? So from drop 189 to 97. This is just going to give us our basic kick pattern to work with, which is super cool. Now, I've noticed here that for whatever reason, there's a bit of panning on the sample. So I'm just going to like basically go in here and mono it. Or at least I'm going to solo the stereo here. Just going to turn down the width a little bit. Probably about to 30%. And then what I'm going to do actually is just freeze and flatten it. All right. I do like a bit of stereo in my kick sometimes, but not a ton. I'm really happy with that there. And that, guys, is our kick drum. Let us move on to the bass line, which is the next super important part of melodic techno. Okay, so for the bass line, I'm just going to start with a Serum preset that I've got a few options for. So I'm going to go ahead here and bring in a new instance of Serum. And we're just going to find one to start with, and then we're going to tweak it to make it our own a little bit, right? So let's go into our library here. I've got some splice packs in the melodic techno genre. I believe there's a few cool bass sounds around here. Let's just go through and play some of them on our root note, which is G, down the octave. That could be a nice one. I'm just going to go ahead here and turn on my mastering limiter as well, just for the sake of not getting any sort of artifacts going through above 0. Okay, let's go through a few of these other presets. We'll go bass down here. So down too low. I like this as maybe a mid bass layer. I'm going to come back to this one. Ooh, that's quite intense. Maybe we'll come back to that. And you can see here that sample selection, guys, or sound selection in this case, is super important. Okay, it's a bit too much of a sort of effect for me. Let's go down a bit lower, down to some of these ones. Yeah, see, this is where it really is important to dial in the right sound. None of these are quite working for me. Ooh, this one's nice. Let's start with this one right now. I'm going to play around with a few settings in a second, but let's just get the notes in first. It's super important just to get the notes in. Now, I'm going to kind of use a 4-bar pattern that's roughly the same every few notes. Let's just turn off the synth for now. Now, again, we're going to use our root note here, which is G. We're going to use G1 since that tends to be where the power in this bass line is, depending on how it's designed. Boom. All right. So we're getting that classic 16th note pattern in, right? So we're just 16th notes. There we go. We got melodic techno. Now, you can definitely just do a basic 16th bass line like this, but I'm going to do a few extra changes. I'm going to put up this every third 16th note up the octave, but not do it every beat. I'm going to do it every first and third beat. Right, something like this is quite awesome. I'm going to just simply copy this across. Again, we're just going to start here. Right, and now we can get a bit more interesting with, for example, every second bar we could do something a little different, where we do something like this. Yeah, something like that. And then we could go up maybe the 5th on this last note as like a cool lead into the next 2 bars. So we're going to go up 7 semitones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can see that's our 5th there. Yeah, we'll see how that sounds. I'm going to loop that up. Could be cool. I'm thinking we could even just have it, honestly, go up the octave, keep it simple. Yeah. And then maybe we could do it sort of the 5th thing I was talking about here. So we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm doing it like 3/16 before the original, up the octave there, just to give a bit of a syncopated feeling, like so. Yeah, that could be really cool. We're going to loop that up for a second bar there. We may do something different here, but I'm thinking it would be more in terms of the automation of the synth rather than the notes. Now, what we can do here is a few changes to the synth. Even though this sounds awesome, let's just have a look at what is going on. So we've got some basic saw type wave here on oscillator A. We've got this digital icon has kick wavetable, which is used a lot for this squelchy sort of texture. We've got some sub in there. We've got some distortion, some EQ, some OTT multiband, phaser, hyper, delay. We've got a lot of things dialed in here. And I think it sounds good as it is, but I kind of want to adjust a few things, right? And I'm just thinking in terms of what could I actually adjust? So we've got the filter sort of delay, filter cutoff, should I say, which is being modulated by both envelopes 1 and 2. My thought process is, what if I use macro 3 as sort of an filter opening thing? I'm going to go in here and select macro 3 as the auxiliary source on both envelopes 1 and 2, and just, oh, no, not 2, 3, and just see how it sounds, right? Right, okay, not exactly what I wanted. What I am instead going to do is just use macro 3 here and just allow it to control the filter cutoff as well. So I'm going to go here. right? So we've got to make sure that's on the filter cutoff, and we're going to go up like that. There we go. Okay, I'm going to adjust the amount of modulation here. So the max amount is sort of the maximum I wanted at. And I am also at the same time going to use macro 3 to modulate a bit of the resonance, just because it will give it that nice sort of acidy sort of feeling, right? Just a little bit. Right, versus boom, there we go. And what I am also going to do now is do a little bit of sort of modulation with a few other parameters from the velocity, which is not something that a lot of producers tend to do from my experience. It's just sort of a forgotten part of Serum. I did cover it in my Serum masterclass the other day. I'll leave a link for that in the description if you want to check that out here on YouTube. I'm just thinking we could use the second filter at the end of our signal chain here, maybe on some sort of I don't know, maybe what should we do? Maybe we'll do a sort of misc filter, maybe like a high EQ 12 or something, and just to sort of vary this. I'm going to turn off the reso. Actually going to turn this mix down a little bit so it's a very subtle effect. We're going to map this here. Now what I'm going to do here is go into all of these notes and bring the velocity down to 0, which in some sense the velocity controls the volume. In this case it won't. I'm using it kind of as a modulation source. And then what I can do is just kind of select perhaps like, you know, I could probably just honestly zoom in here and just kind of play around with a few of the notes and see how it sounds different, right? And I'm gonna also make sure it's actually sounding different. What I'm gonna do here is select all of these and create like a ramp. Ooh, actually that is sick, right? So what if we just sort of selected everything and made it sort of ramp up to maybe 60 or something. Maybe 100 is a bit much. We'll leave that towards the end. So we'll just every bar, or sorry, half a bar, should I say, do a ramp up to 60. We're going to modulate a few other parameters. We'll do like 90 on this one. We'll select these and do, actually, because these are the same here, we'll just copy the notes over. And then for that last one, what I want to do is like ramp up to 100 here, all right? So just creating a subtle bit of movement in the track. So let's go to the effects here again. We're going to crank up the reso. Also going to map the mix knob there. Going to go the mix down there a bit. Maybe I'll change the cutoff to be a bit up here instead. Ooh, yeah, that dB on the upside there. I'm going to move this a bit earlier in the signal chain before the distortion and actually, sorry, after the distortion, before the compression. That way the effect we're getting isn't creating too much of this crazy peak. And it's creating this nice psychedelic feeling to the bass, just subtly. I really, really like what's going on here. And the last thing we're going to do here is just dial in a little bit of sidechain. So I'm just going to use my audio effect compressor here. I really need to add this to my plugins library here because my default setting on my compressor is actually sidechain. So I'm going to bring the input from the kick here in Ableton. The high pass is already dialed in, which is again by default. In fact, what I'm going to do here, this for the sake of the whole track, is I'm actually going to duplicate the kick drum channel. I'm going to call the top one here and color it like a darker gray. I'm going to assign that color to the clips. I'm going to take the kick drum and I'm going to really just make it a little blip, right? Really small, something like this, even shorter maybe. And we're going to turn it off so it's not coming through the master. Boom. All right. Now we're going to delete all that. We're going to bring in our sidechain trigger across every kick drum. It's pretty much the same. We just get a lot more control by doing a shorter sample as the trigger. Go back to the bass, select sidechain, which is already done. Great. Let's listen to what that sounds like coming into the sidechain compressor now with this headphones icon solo. Great. Bring down the threshold. We've got a very fast attack, so there is a little bit of a click there. I can alleviate that a bit, but honestly, I rather a really fast attack on my sidechain because I'm not going to hear that click in the mix. And let's bring it a little bit though. All right, let's listen in the mix. That's sounding fantastic, right? Bring the release down a little bit. All right, that is our bass. Simple pattern. We're mostly using that root note there, which is super common in melodic techno. We don't need to do any sort of complex harmonic stuff just yet. And now I want to go ahead and add a little bit of a mid bass right off the back of this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this channel. I'm going to call this one mid bass. Now I'm going to, whoa, didn't mean to hit my microphone there. I'm going to select these two and color them sort of differently. I'm going to use maybe like a dark red. Yeah, that looks very melodic techno-y. Let's assign those to the track there. And what we're going to do is we're going to, with this mid bass, actually color it like maybe a bit of a different red, just so we have a bit of a visual difference, right? Keep the sidechain dialed in, but I'm going to find this time a completely different preset to start from. Something a little more energetic, like this one I was talking about at the top here. So let's see how that sounds. Now that's just kind of sounding like it's layering. It also sounds like it's an octave too high. I'm just going to quickly find a different one. I'm not 100% on that sound. Now that's definitely down the octave. So a quick pro tip if you're in Ableton is just chuck this pitch device on when you're going through presets and use shift up or down to move the octave really quickly. Okay. Not quite what you want, so let's keep going and finding the right sound. Again, spending the time at the beginning finding the right sound is exactly what you want to do. We could do an acidy sort of one. That could actually be pretty cool. What I'm going to do for a second is just listen alongside the track. I am, however, just going to mute some of these notes, right? We're going to, for the sake of easing, because we're not probably using velocity in this one. No, we're not. Okay, so I'm going to remove all the velocity changes we added. I'm just going to bring them all up to 100 here, right? So we can see the notes. Going to delete a few of these notes, or at least, sorry, deactivate them for a bit. I'm going to kind of create a syncopated feeling here. Something like this. Oh, that actually is sick. Maybe something like this. Yeah, something like that is cool. And we're gonna, yeah, do something a little different for the rest of the first bar. So it's just a bit more variation. Maybe like this. And then we're just gonna do, let's just listen to that first bar. I'm just gonna make sure it's just this bit here. Not sure about that bit here. Maybe remove a few of these double notes. Yeah, I'm going to do this and bring that note back in, remove this one, and have this actually as the bottom note there. I'm going to try going back down the octave though. That actually is sounding sick. Let's listen to these together now. Okay, I am just going to use a very quick EQ. Again, I need to put this in my defaults there. All right, great. Very steep ×4 filter. This is just for a really simple EQ, right? Just because I don't need that low end energy in this sound. Now as well, in this preset, I kind of want to bring down the delay and the reverb. I may use these as modulators later, but it's just a bit too much, right? I might even bring up a little more delay. Just because it is cool to fill in those spaces between the notes because it's not as constant. Gonna bring that down just a little bit. Yeah, that's sounding really nice. Yeah, that's good. See if we can do any sort of subtle tweaks to this top end. Just don't want as much brightness in the sound. Maybe bring the filter down a little bit. Maybe on the mix too. There we go. That's sounding good. Now, I want to add a bit of stereo to this. There is a hyper dimension in here. I wonder if bringing this dimension macro up will help. Now, my plan here is to continue the mid bass through. However, what I'm going to do is this one is going to be way more sort of minimal because I'm planning on adding a lead in the way here. So I'm thinking of something like this, right? Right. And then this one will be up the note there. Just like here, there's going to be this, no, 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 like some sort of lead. I don't know yet exactly. Right, and then we'll loop that up again. Yeah, I'm still going to bring down some of this top end here. It's like a gnarly bit of resonance here. Then bring it up as a result. Yeah, let's bring that up a bit more. That's what we want. Yeah, nice. And that's pretty much the mid bass. Now, I might do a little more additional processing to it. To be fair, that it's using quite a bit of the effects in Serum already. I might just add this multi-band comp here, just to make the highs a little more consistent on like 30%. This is one of my favorite multi-band dynamics presets in Ableton for just getting a bit of the OTT effect without it being too much, right? It's a much more subtle form of that. There we go. That subtle thing makes a huge difference, right? This is actually sounding really, really sick. Loving these sort of rhythmic accents, how it aligns with the main bass. So now I definitely want to add a bit of texture, background, and then I'm thinking after that we'll add our lead. So this is sounding great for now. Let's move on. Cool. So to create that sort of spooky, spacey feeling in melodic techno, I'm going to add a new track here, bring in a new instance of Serum. Again, we're going to start with a preset and sort of tweak it to make it our own a bit. So I'm going to go here to the melodic techno presets I got. We're just going to look for something that's sort of a pad. I'm going to hold the 5th. in G, sorry. I'm going to play the third up the octave. This is a nice sort of starting point. We might process it a bit just to make it a little more interesting. Cool. And then we will have this up the octave there. Select all that, Command A, and we're going to hit legato. Okay, we're going to call this one pad. I'm going to use like a sort of a spacey green color, but something a little more subdued. Boom. All right, maybe like this. We might go up the octave, we'll see. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to do an auto filter on this sound. I'm going to turn it down in the mix by like 8 dB. I'm also going to use an EQ to cut out the low end. And I'm going to bring our sidechain on as well from one of the other channels. Maybe reduce it a little bit. We don't need it as intense with like a pad. Now I'm going to try some enveloping. There's not a lot of movement to the original sound, so I don't know how much it's going to have an effect, but I just want to add something a little interesting to this pad, right? Yeah. See that little bit of movement it adds? Might have to bring the overall cutoff down because the movement's going up. I'm going to add some extra reverb on my main verb send here, which is sort of a lush reverb, right? Yeah, it's nice. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, on this second note, go down a note. So we're going from a minor triad to the sus2 chord, which is a super common technique to create that sort of spooky tension in melodic techno, right? I'm going to use a steeper filter here. Nice, that's sounding good. Gonna quickly mute these 4 kicks here just to create a little bit of tension. Now I am gonna move the filter around with some mod here just to add a little bit of movement. I'm gonna add in the default points here so I can always return back to where I want. I'm gonna add a little bit of movement here, move down a little bit here, move up a little bit here, like this. I'm gonna have the movement down a bit earlier here. Actually, I'm gonna use shift as well and drag up to fine tune these. Very fine movements do make a difference, right? It's probably a bit too much there, so I'm gonna bring that down. Add a little bit of a curve at the end here. Yeah, that's really nice. Now I am gonna duplicate this. I'm actually gonna turn off the EQ and filter for a sec, find a second layer. So I'm gonna call this pad 2. I'm going to mute the bottom notes. We're just going to emphasize that top note movement on this one, just because I don't want to make the background too dense. Now I might use a melodic techno preset. I might use something a little different though, just as a starting point, because sometimes you want to bring in something a little unique from outside the genre standards. So let's see what we've got here. Let's see if there's a nice sort of pad. Yeah. Oh, that's adding a nice little bit of movement, right? I really like that. I'm gonna bring that down. Now I'm gonna actually change this default wavetable. Ooh. That's a little interesting. It just, because this is the FM source, it's creating a little bit of a different sort of vibe, right? I'm gonna add the EQ in here. Just take the highs from the sound. Gonna add a bit more reverb than the other one to wash it out a bit more. I'm going to add a bit of the same filter movement, but I'm going to remove the modulation on this one, bring it up. Yeah. Bit of resonance. That's a nice background effect, right? Yeah, that's a really nice, just additional bit of background pad texture. I'm really, really enjoying this. Now, I may add additional processing later. I might change a few things, but for now, this is exactly what I want for the track. And we're gonna now move on to the lead to really fill in this gap every extra 2 bars here. So let's do that. So with leads in melodic techno, there's sort of a standard, very analog-y, like spacey type feel. A lot of saw waves tend to be used in the sound design. I'm going to bring in a serum here. And again, we're going to start with a preset, but I'm actually going to do quite a bit to make it my own here because it's nice to kind of understand the default sounds in the genre, but then to make it your own track, you can just kind of go nuts with them. So let's have a look at some of the leads we've got here. I'm just going to start scrolling through. Not quite the one I'm after. I want something a little less detuned. So let's go maybe to this one. Yeah, okay. That could be cool, as at least a starting point. Let's get the melody in there. I'm gonna call this main lead. We're gonna color it like a nice sort of spacey green, I guess, like this. Spacey blue, green, whatever you wanna call it. And so we're going to draw in a 4-bar pattern here. I'm going to select the mid bass at the same time. So if you, right click, control click, should I say, I'll at least be able to see the notes that I am up against, basically. So I might put, for example, in the lead here, let's go, where's the root? We're gonna go boom, boom, turn on this headphones icon. I kind of want it to be sort of majory, so using this B flat. Something like this. Go from here. Yeah, like syncopated. Yeah, that's the one. Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, that's the one. Bring out the notes a little bit. Right, that's cool. Want that to align with there. Now, what I'm going to do is change up this sound a little bit, right? So we're going to change the wavetable to something different. Something like acidy, maybe? Ooh, that's nice. Yeah, just something a little different there. That's really cool. Maybe a bit of hyper or something to give it some thickness. Yeah, and maybe if I'm going to get really crazy with it, add a second oscillator, do a bit of FM from B, add envelope 1 to it. That actually sounds sick. Yeah, maybe up the octave on the OSP. Yeah, that sounds awesome. We're going to chuck that same multiband comp because we want this to kind of have the same poking through effect as the mid bass. Yeah, there we go. Chuck a EQ 8 on. Bit of this body. That's sounding so good. We're going to bring the same side chain over. And we're going to add a bit of movement as well via modulation. Now, let's see what we've got here in terms of modulators and macros. Right, so I think what I am going to do here is the mod wheel mapped to anything? Yeah, so the mod wheel, boom. Boom, okay, so we're going to go here, the mod wheel on the upper range, or whatever you want to call it, is kind of closed. And so what have we got here? We've got Serum Sub-Osc. We want to go to MIDI control. Oh gosh, so many things. Mod wheel, is this it? Does that move it? Nah. Okay, so maybe if I go Serum, whoa, where is the mod wheel? Man, they really made it difficult for me today. Okay. Normally it is here. Let's see if it works anyway, if we move it like this, right? Yeah, like this. Yeah, that sounds really good. Might actually bring it down and then sort of start to bring it back. Like this, maybe even more. Like, and then maybe go down like this, like on those last two notes. Yeah, that's cool. I really like that sort of plucky effect on this one. Yeah, and what I'm going to do is bring this curve down a little more, bring this one down a little more. Yeah, so it's a bit more open at the max point. Over here. Cool. I really like this sound. Now, I do want to add a bit of thickness to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this channel. I'm going to call this main lead 2. I'm going to turn off the EQ8 for now. And we're just going to kind of use the same preset, but more drastically change it. For example, I'm going to turn off oscillator B there. I'm going to go up the octave here. Turn off the noise and the sub. Add detune. Blend it down. Just to add like this extra thickness in there, change the wavetable. Yeah, so solo these. Oof, that's exactly what we needed. Awesome. Change the distortion, because why not? Yeah. That dirties it up really nice. I'm actually going to use a different noise. Different amount of level. I'm going to also use maybe a bit of like overdrive on this layer in Ableton. Bring it down a bit. That is sounding really awesome. And then I'm going to duplicate this MIDI over to the second half here. And I'm going to just change it in the main lead for now, and we'll copy over those changes to main lead 2. I'm going to put in a few extra notes. And I'm going to go into the envelopes here. We're going to make it so it's like starts really open. And I'm going to not bring it down quite as much, right? Make it a bit later. And we're going to just do a few of these latter note changes as well. Up the octave. So maybe we'll change it a little down here in the middle as well. Yeah, something like this. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, and actually on the envelopes at the end here, I'm going to have it a bit more open sounding. Actually go even further down. There we go. And we're going to copy that across. Bring that main lead 2 down. Yeah, this is sounding sick. So what I am going to do actually at the beginning is do a huge note at the beginning of the drop, like really open sounding. Copy that across there. And we're going to do another big note at the bottom here, but we're going to do a G, right? Same here, G. A bit of consistency and flow. And we're going to lengthen that out a bit. There we go. Now we've got this awesome flowing melody. And we're going to loop this section up so it flows at the end. the main lead. Yeah, that's sounding perfect. That's pretty much our lead. I am just going to group these two together and call it in all caps lead. I am just going to potentially add a tiny bit of some like saturation. I might use raw here just to sort of control and make it feel like sort of one unit, right? Just the soft shaper actually is perfect sometimes. I'm going to use it on like 50% dry wet. And we're just going to use a little bit of OTT as well after on like 10 or 15%. We get those tails come out a bit, which actually is really nice for melodic techno because there's not a lot of space constantly being filled. The lead will kind of occupy that a bit. I am also going to add a bit of our own reverb here on the main verb. There we go, boom, in context. Now I am going to bring the sidechain on the lead group now as opposed to the individual channel, just so that sidechain is right at the end of the signal chain. I do want the mid bass also maybe to have a bit of this saturation OTT stuff as well. Let's give that a go just so it feels on par with the other stuff. Bring that back here. I'm going to add a bit of our mid bass, bass reverb as well on this sound. I am going to modulate that on this second phrase. That'll sound sick. Bring it down by default there. There we go. All right, that is the lead done for now. We're going to move on to a few other melodic elements, and then we're going to start to expand our drop. We've done a lot of work already. It'll actually come across really cool when we start to duplicate out, because you'll see there's not a ton of other stuff to do. So can't wait to show you that then. Another quick thing I want to add is just a simple arpeggio. I'm envisaging this coming in partway through the drop, but for now I'll just include it here. This is just be a little tension building, a little bit of variation in the arrangement, something that rhythmically aligns with the drums as well and kind of closes the gap between drums and melody stuff. So I'm going to bring in a new serum. We're going to find a really simple ARP sort of sound to start with at least. So let's see if we can find sort of an ARP or a pluck or something like that. Let's see what we got here. Let's try, is there an ARP particular one? Maybe not, maybe we'll just have to go with a pluck. That's okay. Something a bit shorter than that. Yeah, something like this could be cool, and maybe we just play around with the envelope settings. So for now, I'm gonna chuck, consistent MIDI clip for the whole 8-bar section. We're gonna call this, oh, we're not gonna add a new audio channel. We're gonna call this ARP, and we're gonna for now just chuck on an arpeggiator. I may print this to MIDI depending on how much flexibility I want, but I'm thinking it's gonna be a pretty simple ARP. In fact, I'm gonna start on the D, which is the 5th. Let's see how that sounds. I'm going to go D, G. We're going to go maybe on the 7. We're going to maybe use the B flat as well. Maybe I'm going to go 16th. Yeah, see, now I'm starting to think that may not be the best sound. Let's try a 1/12 just for fun. Nah, that's not quite nice. What I'm going to do is just change the sound. Yeah, that actually could be sick. Hang on a second. Let's try going up the octave before the arpeggiator. I'm going to turn this way down in the mix. Try another sound. Not quite what we want. Maybe I'm just going to try a few other sort of stab sounds. That actually sounds cool, but not as the arp. It sounds like something else I'd use in the track. Let's see what else we've got here. Ooh, that actually could be really cool. It's kind of unique as well, right? Gonna bring the gate right down so it's really short. Bring down the reverb. I'm gonna use a bit of EQ just to tame some of the top end there. It's a little too bright for me personally. So let's just use this. And I may change the MIDI. It's a little, sounds a little too happy almost. So what I'm going to do is bring this up. Maybe we're going to start on the G down here. I'm going to bring this down. We might go up to the D. Oh, sorry, the A. That's the darker sound we want. Bring that gate up a little bit. Yeah, that's sounding sick. I'm going to bring down the decay on this filter as well. Yeah, that sounds like epic as a. Filter it down a bit more. Bring on some sidechain, and we may do a bit more EQ to it, / turn it down in the mix. Yeah, that's sounding great. Honestly, that's kind of all I would need. I may add a little bit of OTT on it for fun. Let's see how that sounds. Yeah, that's great. Cool. I'm going to add a few more drums in, and then we're going to finally start to get out of this loop. Let's go. So a huge thing in techno is like those constant 16th note hats. I do hear offbeat hats kind of emphasized as well. So I'm going to bring in a MIDI layer and a audio layer. These are going to be for my 16th hats, and then I'm going to use like a loop to reinforce that, right? So let's get the loop in first. Now I'm going to go to my sound pack here and just kind of find a nice drum loop. So if I just search loop here. I think that'll be a nice one to use. Yeah, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring the loop on. It's already at 125, which is pretty sick. Now I could just use that as is, to be honest. I'm going to use split stereo mode though and bring this right channel a bit to the center. bring it down a little bit. Let's solo that with the kick just to make sure they work together. Yeah, that's a bit more balanced now. Now in this channel, I'm gonna use actually like I might actually use a hat sample from this here, just something that's proven to work. I think this hat to me is the most kind of just solid sounding. So we're just gonna bring that into a new simpler here. I might play around with it. And we're just gonna go on C3 because C3 in this case is gonna be the default pitch of the sample. It's confusing with the scale highlighting on because you can easily lose your place. Now I'm gonna use a bit of velocity variation because simpler by default does change the volume of the sample with the velocity. So we're gonna just add a bit of subtle variation, something like this. Something like this. Let's duplicate that over. That last one I want to be a bit quieter. And this one I actually want to be a bit quieter as well. Yeah, it just adds a bit of movement, right? Let's see how that sounds. I'm going to cut that there, consolidate this MIDI clip, and we're going to loop that up by turning on loop. Now let's blend this with our other loop here. I'm going to solo those together. Nice, I really like the sound of those together. What I'm going to do with this loop is down here in my mixer settings, I can change track options. Now, for some reason it doesn't always show on the sidebar there. I still haven't figured out why that is, but I can add a bit of latency or delay, sorry, should I say, to the loop channel. I'm just gonna move it a little forward. And I'm gonna move this one a little back. Or actually, should I say, no, I'll keep that one on 0 and then I'll move this one another 2 milliseconds forward. So those two hats don't fully align. Just creates a little more space for each of those hat layers in the mix. Now, what I am gonna do is also just grab a very, 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 and I mean very subtle amount of sidechain on both of these layers. Just so that the kick is always front and center, right? Let's bring in the kick drum now and solo those all together. I'm gonna turn off the mixer. Boom, boom. Now, I may actually pan this hat a bit to the left and I may bring this one back to the right a bit. I'm gonna bring down the loop a little bit and down the hats a little bit more. And listen in context with the whole mix. Now I want this ARP here. It's just a bit too, not stabby enough for me. So I want there to be a little more, it's just, yeah, I just want it to be a little stabbier. For some reason, it's still not really affected by this envelope. I think that's a bit better now. I may actually even use I might use the drums bus here to emphasize the envelope, the transients of this sound. Let's just use this. There we go. Yeah, Yeah, that's sounding really good now. Just a few simple hats and stuff like that, and we've got ourselves a more fleshed out loop. Okay, we can pretty much at this point start to duplicate out the arrangement. So I'm going to do that now. We're going to add in a few additional layers as we do this. So for example here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by duplicating this 4 times across this drop section, right? So now we've got our 32 bar drop section, I think. Yeah. Now we're going to kind of, normally I might only duplicate over certain elements, but because we've got a pretty dense loop, I'm actually going to take out elements as we go. So for starters, I'm actually going to turn off our lead in the first 8 bars. I'm going to turn off our ARP pretty much until the second part here, and then 1C where there's a bit of a change, I will bring that in sort of slowly. Pad, I'm going to actually mute pad there and there, both layers. I'm going to mute pad 1 here for the second 8 bars too. I feel like that's actually no, maybe I'll bring it in here for now. I'll see how we go. And basically, I only want the hats to kind of come in here as well. So I'm going to just start with kick and bass basically in the intro of the drop. Right. Now what I do want to do is enable these few notes before. I'm going to bring down the lead a little bit because it's a bit loud when it comes in. I'm actually going to mute this pad. Yes, I am, because I want this one more subtle to come in. Might only bring in one of the hat layers. I'm going to adjust the decay of this hat. Make it a little pluckier. Add a bit of drums reverb to it on my send. Just make it a little more atmospheric. So what I'm going to do here instead for some variation is I'm going to enable a high pass filter on the kick drum for the last 2 bars of this section. And then I'm going to mute that last kick. We're going to turn on the on and off of this just during this section. All right. Yeah, I think that sounds really good. What I may do is I may add a bit of variation to the end of this here. I'm going to leave my muted kicks there. I'm going to copy over that automation I just added on these kicks here. And then this time, what I'm going to do, however, is we're actually going to kind of high pass the bass, I think. Yep. So we're going to add an auto filter here just after our sidechain. So we're going to sweep this up at the same time. And then I'm going to, for those last few notes of the lead there, I'm going to mute the bass line. I'm going to turn off the bass, mid bass here. So this is leading into our breakdown / micro build section we're going to add. So this is going to sound good. And then I may even just mute the kicks at all, like completely here. Still want a bit of stereo. I've got my stereo bus here. I'm going to increase this on the mid bass. Okay, so I also want to do a few changes to the beginning of the drop, especially when this mid bass pulls out, just because it's a little empty. I think I want to put some sort of clap sort of effect in there. I might have a sample for that I could just use. Let's have a quick look. You know, I could just use something like this. Chuck a bunch of reverb on. That's cool. I might actually chuck clap effects. Might chuck a separate reverb on. I love Valhalla Supermassive, but actually maybe Shimmer. Oh no, I'll use Supermassive. Let's use Supermassive. It just sounds really nice. 80s space verb. Come on, that is exactly what we need in there. Let's high pass it quite steeply. I'm gonna dip it in the mids there. You know what? I'm gonna add a second instance on, not to double up the effect here. Let's make sure we've got the right one here. And I'm gonna use a more delay sort of effect. Echoes, maybe half note. Or maybe not that one. It's not quite what I want. Let's try half note cluster. EQ it out. Mixdown. Bit of echo on the send. And we'll just turn it right down there. Less feedback on this one. Yeah, that feels a little like slightly off. There we go. All right. That sounds sick to me. Let's just make sure it's, yeah, kind of the right. I'm going to put it here, actually. Yeah. Might actually get rid of that delay or maybe make it a bit quieter, the one on the send. And I want like another sort of effect here, like a ride. I may use the ride I'm planning on bringing in later. Let's see if I got one in here, or at least cymbal, or at least hat. Maybe I could just use this one and copy the same effects over. That could be cool. Oh, that actually sounds sick. Bring that down. Bring up the wet a bit more. Cool. Okay, so one thing I want to do leading into this, I'm going to create a new channel. I'm going to call this Reverse Lead Ambience. I'm going to temporarily, and again, I'm not going to do this, not going to permanently do this, but on the channel here, I'm going to chuck this Supermassive on, 100% on the lead group. I'm going to actually mute all these. This is just for the resampling purposes. We're going to solo the lead. We're going to arm the track, set it to resampling input. Boom. And let's record this section. Yeah. Exactly what I wanted. There we go. All right. So that's our perfect sound. I'm going to now turn off Supermassive. I'm going to turn on these sections here again, and we're going to reverse this sound. We're going to just use basically the tail up to this point here, sort of. Turn off record. Going to sort of start to fade out the sample before the notes come in. This is going to be like a nice reverse ambience, right? longer there, so there's a bit of overlap between them. I'm going to add a fade at the beginning of the sample as well. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe a bit longer, maybe a bit quieter. I'm going to leave the effects out for the next 8 bars, and then I'm going to bring them in here. Okay, cool. I'm going to use the same supermassive on the ARP. We're just doing some really cool reverb stuff, basically. We're going to play around with the dry wet coming in from 100% down to 0%, right? I'm going to also, to help with this, bring a utility up from quieter, basically like kind of like here. And I want to bring in a snare here on the offbeat. I'm going to color this the same orange. We're also going to color these two like a lighter orange to denote the fact that they are drums, but not as important as the kick and snare, right? Okay, let's bring our snare up here. I do have a snare sample. I am just probably going to use it as is. I may layer a clap with it. Where is it? Oh, you know what I'm going to do is I am going to use a really quick sort of snare sample here. We're going to warp that at times. So we're going to use warp, repitch. The original sample is 124. I'm going to pitch, oh, I might use complex actually, and I'm going to pitch it up a little bit. A bit quieter in the mix. Add a bit of reverb. That's cool. Anyway, that was a little thing I just remembered I wanted to do. I think it was down here. Maybe it's actually not here. Maybe it's just in my... yeah, I think this is the snare. There we go. Boom. Let's bring this one in here on the offbeat. I may need to saturate this just a little bit, just because it's a little not as chunky as the kick, and I want the dynamics to kind of be comparable. So let's see how we go for now. Play it from here. Okay. Few things I want to do. I want to EQ this bad boy. It's got too much like upper mids, so it's going to use EQ8 to do this. Emphasize that a little more at the same time. And we are going to saturate it. Again, I'm probably just going to use the normal saturator here actually instead of raw. Boost it up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Boom. Bit of extra volume. Bit less of those highs. There we go. That's sounding pretty good to me there. Let's duplicate that. Now, we actually only want this, I reckon, in 1D. Instead of adding rides, I may just use this. Cool. We're going to use a few other effects here just to start fleshing out our drop. We're going to use some rises and whatnot. So let's do that. Probably not that one. Yeah, this one's going to be perfect. We'll use this halfway through. Bring it way down. Impact noise. Unwarp the sample, and I do want to add a little bit of a fade to it just because it ends kind of abruptly. There we go. I maybe want to add a bit of a low end impact here, like when we have this moment where the kick comes out. Maybe a bit louder. And then a bit of a riser at the same time because we need risers. Boom. Let's unwarp this. Let's also add a bit of a fade. We'll turn it down about -22, same as the other riser, maybe even more. We'll align it to the start there. Make sure that the fade is like a little fade / a little cut at the end. Maybe we'll actually cut it out of the snare fill. And maybe I want there to be a bit more of a muted feeling right where that snare hits so that the bass cuts out at the same time. Yeah. That's cool. I'm really liking the sound of this now. We may use some of these rises a little earlier as well. That could be cool in a breakdown. I won't use that for now. That would be good for the main riser. In the breakdown, yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's just listen so far. I actually am going to reuse this reverse ambience thing. Maybe I'll use it there as well. This time I'm going to consolidate it and I'm going to cut it right out here. I want to use an earlier impact as well. Maybe there's another impact I can grab. Not that one. There was actually a sample earlier. I might sort of adjust here. I'll just use part of it here. Yeah, that's cool. I might turn it way down. I'm going to EQ that so that we get more of the low end out. We don't really need a lot of low end in these effect samples. Take out some of those high end frequencies. Maybe I will use this. Oh yeah. Yeah, let's make sure that's warped on repitch. And we will sort of like, ooh, I might compress it because there's a bit of a spike there. We'll see what we need in a second. I'm just going to add a bit of a fade for now. Offset that a bit. Yeah, I reckon I'm just going to add a little bit of compression, not sidechain. We're just going to control that at like a 4:1 ratio, a bit of attack, bit of release. There we go. bring this one around. I'm gonna bring it more over here though. Extend it the full way because we don't have a snare fill. I'm gonna use this sample. I'm gonna reverse it. And we're gonna use this as a riser this time, just as a shorter one. Impact out of the drop, turn off the loop mode. And I'm gonna actually keep everything going in terms of the drums in this micro build section, just because I want the energy to flow. So it's like a very sort of minor build. I'm gonna use some more build elements and stuff like that. We're gonna keep the pads going. I'm not gonna keep the basses necessarily going straight away. I might bring it in high pass here. I think I'm gonna bring the snare out in this part of the build. Yeah, we'll do that. I'm gonna maybe bring the ARP through there too. I may reintroduce the lead. I might take the pad out here and just strip it back to this one. Yeah, and then we're gonna use a few of the same effects we used here in the build. We're gonna bring that up there to drop 2. We're gonna use this one. Probably gonna use this one here as well, just as a little sort of moment. I'm gonna reuse this impact potentially here. I might reuse this one as like a nice halfway point. Maybe I'll use this at the beginning, but not in the second half of that build. And I'm going to use the first note leading in there here. Leave some space maybe for some vocals or some other sound that I haven't quite decided yet, but we can hear it starting to really come together now. So with that, let's start to kind of flesh out both of our builds. We're going to probably start with the first build, and then we're going to probably use the some of that stuff in the second build. We'll then flesh out drop 2A, and then the outro and intro and whatnot. Yeah, and included in that will be the breakdown as well. Cool, let's do that now. Okay, so let's start out with the, I'm gonna look at the arrangement there, with the breakdown. I'm actually gonna just collapse some of these drums and bass elements because it's mostly not gonna be drums and bass in this section. I'm gonna start out with 2 elements. I wanna start out with the pad and this pad here. Bring them over one by one. I am thinking of bringing over this impact as well. I'm gonna add some of my own reverb to this. I'm also gonna like fade it out a little more there. I'm gonna cut this part of the sample and use the impact, the crash impact. I'm gonna loop that up there. And I'm gonna bring in the ARP from the beginning, but I'm gonna bring it in kind of actually having it quite loud here. I'm gonna bring it down. So I want it to kind of start out about here. I'm gonna bring up the reverb over time as well, right? And I'm going to, yeah, I'm gonna just leave that MIDI actually as it is. Maybe I'll actually go down here. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. And then I'm going to make sure this utility is actually before the reverb. And then the cool thing is what will happen there is that the reverb will echo out when the dry is still being turned down, which is a super cool technique. Going to adjust the curve of this a little bit so that it's not super sudden. And then I want it to go down to like the root note here. Yeah, just a little bit of variation on this pad. And we're going to bring over that reverse ambience we had from earlier. Boom. Bring it up like this. And then we're going to bring in our lead. I'm going to try bringing in just the main layer, not the second layer, because I want it to be a little different. I'm going to try bringing the pad in maybe just on its own on that one chord. And maybe actually I'll just have the first note there. And then I'll just use this little stab here, just fill in the gap. Gonna bring down that multi-bend comp a bit. I'm gonna start to bring up the volume on this just a little bit. And then I want this continuing in the build here. And this is where we're going to start to get all of our effects and stuff like that come in. So we're going to bring in all of our sort of rises and whatnot. We're going to have the reverse of this coming in. Maybe bring in the impact there. Wow, I've got everything on the wrong channel. Good job, Aiden. I'm going to bring this down. We're going to repeat this. I believe we may as well. Yeah, and then we're going to bring in the impact again here. We're going to bring in this here. Sort of some weird... We're going to duplicate this over. Oh, that actually should be here. What am I doing? Yeah, I'm a beat or a bar, sorry, too late. Go back here. Going to duplicate this over. Fade those. Maybe not. We're going to add yet another riser layer, something that's just unique to the build, right? So I think there was something a bit more tonal. Yeah, this one's nice. Fade that in a bit there. We're going to keep the ARP going. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have just a 4-bar section. So I'm going to delete this just so there is a gap, but right before the drop, it's just 4 bars, not like 8 or anything like that. Cool. And we're going to take the snare here and we're going to create our own snare build. Now I'm going to put this actually in a MIDI track, just easier to do. And I'm going to have it on the 16th notes. Again, we've got to use C3 here. So we're just going to duplicate that. Just have it pretty consistent. And what I'm going to do is use the ramp feature to create sort of a velocity ramp like this. So we'll go boom, ramp down like that. And what we're going to do is have the and then I'm going to do something with the main lead here. Sorry, the bass, mid bass here. And we're going to just copy this over. Something like that with heaps of reverb on it like this. We're going to also automate more reverb just for this section. We're going to use a utility to make this quieter just in this section because we want the main bass to really cut through in the drop. And we'll have this little reverse in, I think. Tone it down maybe a bit more than normal. Cool, so let's listen to this section now. And then we're gonna really make this just for like that last 2 beat section. And I really like the idea of this having like reverb that kind of sucks in and then we just like mute the send or something like that. Or maybe not. I'm just gonna make sure the fade here is dialed in there. I'm just gonna turn this down even more. I think that's what it needs. And maybe I'm gonna use a quick riser here as well. Zoom in there. Turn this one down as well. Nah, you know what? It doesn't need that. What I do, actually, this is what I want. I'm going to take this here, the one I froze. Oh, if I can, my mouse stops stuffing up. I'm going to use that little reverse ambience here just for a little moment. And then we're going to have like a cool, oh, we think the lead's coming in moment, but it's actually not. So there we go. Yeah, something like that. And then we'll actually fade it in more, have it even quieter. Maybe not that drastic. That's sick. Okay, let's do that. And this is really starting to come together. So let's just check out our breakdown and build so far. I think it actually needs to start a little louder, this ARP, and it can be a little curved there. Might bring over some of these moments here in this section. Maybe here. On the 1. So what I am going to do is these pads here, group them together, call this pads, and I'm actually going to use a auto filter high pass just to bring out that energy in this section. Bring it in here. I think we need yet another riser. We need more energy. I think there is a, yeah, again, there's like a uplifter or something. Something like this, yeah, this is it. Yeah, so I think we'll actually fade this in for a bit of a longer time. Yeah, this is going to be awesome. Maybe here for clap. Yeah, I'm going to put the clap here and then sort of instantly mute everything if possible. At least this. And then bring it up here. Yeah. I might temporarily turn this send off as well. It's a bit unorthodox, but I think it makes sense. There we go. That's sounding good to me. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We just want to make sure this build here is as epic as it could be. Maybe I want to bring in this synth here. Maybe bring in the ARP. Maybe bring in the mix a bit more, especially from here onwards. Might bring it down and then we start to bring it sort of out towards the end here. Put the clap and the ride in there. Another impact. I think I do want the bass main pattern in here. this. Oh. Yeah, that's sick. Oh, man, I'm so excited. This little thing here, bring this down a little more, but not as much as we had it before. I might bring in this little moment here. Like this. And like some of these notes here. Might bring up the mixer here. Bring up the high pass or something like that here. Maybe I want to bring the pad fully back in here. Maybe the hat loop, or at least the hats maybe. And just the auto filter frequency cutoff automation, so the bass kind of feels like it's coming in a little sooner. Great. Okay, that's it for this breakdown and build. I'm actually really happy with that. I don't think we even need a vocal in this case. I think the lead kind of carries the energy there. And I love the addition of the second lead only coming into at the drop. I think that's really cool. What I am going to do is I'm going to use this lead here in the, probably actually this one. I'm going to use this in this little micro build here, but I'm going to only use it when it comes in here. Or actually, no, we will kind of use it for the whole section there. Where is it coming in? So 125 here. Might even keep the bass high pass coming through here the whole time. Bring the snare build in here with that impact. Oh, now we want the full snare build. We probably want at least some of these rises again. And then I'm going to have everything cut out for those last few notes. So, and we're going to have everything like this. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, now there's like a little 2 beat there. mute the hats and even everything up there, even the bass line and the arp. Great. That's going to sound good. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over, I'm going to unlock automation. So we copy over that. I'm going to bring everything over from 1A, but we're going to make a few changes, right? We're going to have this impact at the beginning. We are going to have the whole hat loop in from the beginning too. We are just going to have the first note of the lead there. And I'm going to bring in drop 1B. The only difference here is we're going to introduce the snare this time, I reckon, at the same time. If I can copy paste correctly, that would be absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's do that. Did I bring over my sidechain? Well, for some reason, I don't know why, and I'm kind of stumped. I keep making the same mistake. Copy, paste. Nope, okay. Apparently that's just not working today. Let's just kind of copy it, right click. Maybe there's a bit of a glitch here. We're gonna paste this here. And we're gonna call this drop 2B. Okay. And we're gonna bring in the snare, like we said here. So we're gonna bring that in straight away. We're going to bring all the pads, all that goodness in kind of straight away, as well as even the arp we're going to bring in. Cool. Now, one thing I wanted to check is how's the sidechain copying going. Apparently I haven't done it at all this whole time. That's probably important to do, I would say, so we get the sidechain dialed in. I'm going to copy this snare fill right before the end of this micro. So this one. Now, one thing I wanted to do in this build here especially in the second half is play around with adjusting this bass note harmony. So what I'm going to do here is I'm thinking of whether I do it in this section or I only change it here. And then bring all this one down 2 notes. I'm going to consolidate the whole clip, and then we're going to go down 2 more semitones to the 6. And then I might go up the octave here. And then I could try the pattern here if I lock the automation. And maybe I'll go back to the 7 there. And I'll have to adjust these notes here. So, boom. Go down here. Oh, actually stuffed that up. Let's consolidate this. All of 3 and 4, we want to go down. And then this goes down 2 more. This one goes down just the original 2. And we'll copy over those patterns as well there. Cool. Now what I may do is I may tease this idea coming in maybe here. Cool, that sounds good. I'm gonna just bring over 1A again now for the outro. This is also kind of how I think I'm gonna start the intro, but we'll just do the outro for now. Turn off that. I'm gonna turn off the mid bass here though. And I am gonna keep the hats going. I'm going to do a little impact there. A bit earlier. Where are we? Unmute those last kicks there. And then I'm going to copy over this. And this time we're going to bring out the loop there. And then halfway through, we're going to bring out the hats as well. That sounds good. So I want to double check this bass has actually got mono turned on. Yeah, there we go. Some of those notes are overlapping there. Cool, that's just a really simple outro. Nothing much needed there. Gonna make sure the this pad is on here for the beginning of the outro. Just even that note, mute the second note. Turn off these notes here. Turn off this. Yeah, maybe have this little transition. Nice. Okay, now that that outro is pretty much done, I'm just going to do the intro and we're just going to build it up from there. Really simple. I'm not going to bring in the hats just yet. I'm going to have a really simple intro like this. However, I am going to have the bass high passed. Make sure the sidechain's dialed in. Bring that in. Snare here. Bring in the occasional note. Nice, that's sounding good. And then we basically can duplicate this over here. Bring in our main lead. I'm not going to bring in the octaved version because I want to save that for the drop. I'm also not going to bring in our mid bass just yet, although I may tease it here. I'm going to mute the kick here, just leading into the breakdown. I'm going to bring in our pads here. Boom, boom. I'm going to bring in this one here. Going to bring in our main art pattern, not the one where there's changes, over here. I'm also going to bring this in from quiet, and I'm also, like I did before, I'm going to add a lane for each automated envelope. I'm going to bring in, my mouse is really being funny, bring in the reverb there. Little reverse here. Bring in that impact over there. Okay, this is starting to sound really good. We're just going to bring in a few transition sort of things. So for example, I'm going to bring this one in again here. Here. Also put one at bar 33. I think what we'll do is before the snare comes in, we'll do our classic like kick high pass, so we'll borrow it from the drop here. Just again, I want to create a little bit of flow there. Cool, let's have a look here. Yeah, I'm gonna play around with this open a little bit more than I have been in the main bass because I haven't really done any of that. I'm gonna use this in certain circumstances in the intro. I'm going to use it a little bit here, but less so. I'm going to kind of use it every so often and use it like at lesser and greater amounts. For example, here I really kind of want to open it up and even have a bit of a moment where it chills out there. I might even do that a little bit more here. I'm going to use this in the build as well, I reckon, especially towards the end here. Okay, cool. I'm going to use that there for this little section. I'm going to do an even bigger one here, sort of open up for a longer period of time. And we'll use some micro ones like here and here. And here we'll use a bigger one. That's cool. I like that open filter effect. I put this here as well. Actually, no, I won't. Keep the tension. Put these notes here. I want this reverse ambience sort of coming in around here where the lead comes in. Maybe like here. Take the kick out for like 4 beats, 4 bars here though. Maybe I'm gonna have a few more like sort of riser type effects here, not full on as the build, but over the lead there. Might even use the main lead too here. Okay, I'm gonna use a 909 ride. I'm just gonna find something from a sample pack. Hopefully something good. That could actually work. Maybe I'll make my own though. No. See this one here. Oh, that actually could work pretty well. Although I'm gonna try my own version. It feels just not 100% what I want. So I'm gonna actually go for a 909 kit. Let's go for the 909 core kit in Ableton. Yeah, that higher ride there. Every 8th note, boom, and we'll go. Yeah, like this one. Boom, we'll just go across like that for now. See how it sounds anyway. I just want to use this very sparingly in the track. So let's see how that sounds. I prefer mine. There we go. Add a bit of sidechain from the kick or the sidechain trigger. Bit of stereo on my bus. Bit of reverb as well. My trigger is not coming across. I need that. I need that a lot. I need that throughout all this section. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to automate the fader to get just that little bit louder in this section, like here. Yeah, nice. Kind of trying to avoid the dun 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 effects that are normally going on in a melodic techno track. With that though, I'm pretty much happy with this arrangement. Now I'm just going to go through a final check, final mix down, final master, make sure all of the elements are dialed in 100% as I like. Now that I've got my full arrangement, I can visually see everything, and we'll sort of go from there. Let's just go through element by element, starting with our side chain. Now, I believe our sidechain is dialed in as far as it can be. We don't have it in the build or the breakdown kind of deliberately. Although what I'm thinking I will do here is I'm going to consolidate it in the build. I'm going to fade it in, just so the sidechain sort of fades in over time. Yeah. That just gives it a little bit of texture in the build, anticipating the kick coming in. Now let's go to the kick. I think there's a lot of variation in this track. I want to add a few like double kicks and stuff like that. So for example, in drop 1C, we did end up using a bass note change. We ended up delaying that later in the track, but anyway, just a few like double kicks like this. Actually, maybe not after the snare. Maybe I want it in 1D. Like this. Maybe in 1B as well. I also want the bass to sort of open up a bit earlier here. Nice. I do want this little reverse noise here the whole way. Cool. Snares used in a good amount throughout the track. I'm wondering if I should add any snare variations in the drop. Maybe here, like a little syncopated one. Maybe like here, something like this. Simplest snare there, and then bring this one in. Maybe not there. Gonna bring up the snare fill. You know what? I think I'm gonna layer up this snare with that snare fill. And we can bring this one down a little bit just to give it a bit more texture and consistency in the mix. So anywhere that there's a snare fill, I'm gonna go ahead there and just kind of add that in. So where else is there a snare fill? There's one here. I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that snare though. EQ wise, I think it's good. We may mix the drums all together in a second. Hat's sounding good. Just gonna add a very safe EQ just to make sure there's no low end here. Although I think we're pretty good there. Good amount of reverb. I'm gonna add some reverb to that snare as well. Just a little bit. Same with this loop. So there's consistency in the reverb feel. Also gonna EQ the lows out of this one. This ride is also good. I'm gonna EQ out the lows of this one too. There we go. Gonna maybe just adjust this top end too. Yeah, bass there sounds really good to me. I don't think I need to do much there. Now this bass here, I want to get mixed just a little differently. I may adjust the decay. Maybe I'll adjust the resonance or the filter here. Oof, that's nice. Maybe I'll go to 18. Nah, 12 works. Okay, maybe that works. Bit pluckier. That's nice. Maybe one of these could go up the octave. Open it up. Nice, that sounds really good. I'm gonna EQ the low mids a bit out of this one. I'm gonna give it a bit more. This stuff here. wider. Basically more mid-range. I feel like we're still missing something. You know, I'm gonna chuck on a channel EQ. Just needed more of that high end. Mid bass is sounding sick now. Let's listen to this pad. Bit of the mids out. Now I do want to automate this a little more than I have been. I might use the same automation I used there, here, more or less. Here I might actually kind of skew it upwards. Like this. Start it a bit more open. Cool, that sounds good. I may play around with the automation on here. I wonder if there is the ability. There's not a lot of stuff we can automate here. That's actually probably fine. I probably wouldn't. Actually, you know what? I'm going to configure this and I'm going to automate the filter cutoff because why not? Because why not? And we're just going to do it in this section only. Right. And I'm going to adjust it so that the MIDI control, this I want to stay sort of open the whole time. And I may do that on the lead over here. Same here maybe, but not on the mixer volume. We want to probably configure this one as well. Filter cutoff. Okay, cool. Let's do that there too. Bring this one down. Here. And then what we're going to do is also configure, I probably would say the release, or actually, you know what? We'll just do the decay on this one. Where are we? Yep. We'll do the decay just in the builds, I reckon, not in the actual drop. We'll bring it down here. here too. That's sounding sick. I'm happy with that. Arp sounds pretty good. Bit of volume here. Up sounds good. I really like that. Clap effects. Could be a bit louder. Ride's good. Snare feels good. Something like this. Yeah, it sounds good. This is good. Effects are pretty all good. I don't really need to change a lot there. Yeah, that's good. Rises are good, I think. Whoa, didn't mean to do that. This one might need a bit of an EQ just in the lows. This one is fine, I think. Gonna add some drums verb to the snare build. I'm also gonna automate this reverb over time. Yeah, that's good. Do that there too. Color all of our effects white. I'm going to do the snare build sort of like an off-white maybe, just because it's kind of an effect, kind of a drum hit sort of thing. This one's sort of like a vague melodic effect, so slightly different white. This one's probably like a drum hit effect sort of thing. This one's, yeah, anyway, the colors probably don't matter that much at this point. Okay, I think that's pretty much all the things in the track. Now I'm just going to kind of think about the overall mix down. Is there anything I need to control? I think the lead's just a bit loud. I think the tops of this are just a bit loud now, so I'll bring that down on the EQ here of the mid bass. I'm just gonna watch the low mids of the main bass. This stuff here. I think it's pretty good though. I might just narrow the Q up there. You know, I'm going to add a subtle auto pan to the ARP. I just want to add like a subtle movement on this sound right at the end of the chain. I'm thinking like we'll go to like a 2-bar movement and we'll go something like this, really indiscernible. Just a little movement. I think all of the effects need to be grouped together and just have a little bit. I would probably put the clap and stuff in there too. These just all, the reverb ambience lead as well. These just all need a tiny, tiny bit of sidechain. Just a little bit like that. Cleans it up, make sure the kick is always coming through on top. Let's see if any of my other hats and stuff need stereo. I'm actually gonna group. I'll group all my top drums. Oh, forgot to add my ride cymbal here. That's my bad. Here. Maybe this. No, I think the stereo there is pretty good. Maybe a bit on the snare. I feel like I still need more lows from the snare. There we go. I feel like the pad needs like a bit more of the mids. I'm gonna open up this pad here a bit. As I will here. I think I might continue the pads through here and then just sort of slowly filter them out like this. This can come down in volume here. Honestly, that's sounding pretty good to me. All I'm going to do now is just head to my mastering and just look at the overall balance. I'm going to go to the drop here. I'm going to do a really quick master. I've already got a limiter dialed in. I'm just going to turn on my loudness metering and see where we're at loudness-wise. I'm going to increase it a little bit here. Much there. I am also, however, going to add a little bit of multi-band compression right before that, just like 10-15%. I'm also going to clip off some of the transients with G-clip right before the limiter, just to get that extra bit of loudness. Oversample them. Turn down the output gain into G-clip because it was a bit much there. I could hear a little bit too much distortion. You can normally see how flat it is coming into the Pro L2. I think those snare fills are a bit loud. I'm just gonna consolidate these, turn them down like I'm going to say 3 dB, so to 4. I'm just going to copy paste those anywhere we have a snare fill. There we go, that's a bit better. Yeah, that's honestly sounding pretty good. I don't really have to do a ton of stuff. I do just want to, however, check before the clipper here, the mid side. So I'm just going to check on a utility. We're just going to listen to that and make sure our mid side is okay. I'm going to put it right at the end here, go to the mid side mode, right click on it. All right, I'm just going to do a little bit of natural phase EQing. Natural phase sounds really good on the master. Doesn't adjust the phase content too much. We're going to use a sideband on the low shelf setting. Just take out some of the lows in the sides there. I'm going to check on spam, which is an equal weighted spectrum analyzer. I'm going to check my frequency response. It should be relatively flat. Okay, now we're getting a bit of clipping, stuff like that. Apologies for that. I am actually going to reduce with probably like a channel EQ or something, just a tiny bit of low end, like 1 dB. Then we'll increase the output by 1 dB. Bit more hot top end there. I'm just going to add a bit of utility before G clip here. It's just hitting it a bit too hard. I'm going to bring it down 2 dB and then probably up a bit more in here. Okay, I'm going to bring it down even more on before the clipper. There we go. I think that's pretty good. Okay, with that, I am going to give my track a final listen. I'm super happy with this end result. Hopefully we don't get too many sort of dropouts. In fact, I'm just going to quickly freeze and flatten a few things, and then we're just going to give it a final listen through. As always, I really hope you enjoyed this course. If you have a request for another genre you want me to see on this channel, just leave a comment below and I'll maybe get to it. As always, you can grab the project from what we just made down below in the description for free. Just type in your email and name so I know where to send it. Lastly, if you do want me to help you make music like this or in any other style, if it's hip hop, I don't care, drum and bass, I don't care. Work with me one-on-one. Click my link down below in the description and apply for the Producer Launchpad, where I'll help you bring your music up to professional quality in just 12 weeks. And with that, we'll end it there. Until next time, happy producing.